The Valori had ruled the stars for longer than most species had existed. Their empire stretched across 12,000 star systems, and their ships could break planets in half. They were beings of crystal and light, their bodies glowing with colors that had no names in human languages. They lived for thousands of years, and they believed themselves to be the greatest civilization the galaxy had ever known. Empress Sarathyn Ix sat upon a throne made from the heart of a dead star. She had ruled for 600 years, and she would rule for 600 more. Her mind could touch the thoughts of billions across her empire. Her power was absolute. Her wisdom was legendary. But none of that mattered to her as much as the small, glowing bundle in the nursery chamber of her palace. Her daughter, Ethera, was only 2 cycles old. By Valori standards, she was barely more than a newborn. Her crystalline body was soft and fragile, not yet hardened into the diamond-strong form of an adult. Her light was gentle, a soft pink glow that pulsed when she slept. When Sarathyn held her, she could feel her daughter's mind reaching out, simple and pure, filled with nothing but trust and love. Valori children were delicate things. They could not survive the noise of populated worlds. The psychic chatter of billions of minds would overwhelm their developing consciousness. So the Empire had created the Crichet worlds, quiet planets at the heart of Valori space where children could grow in peace. These worlds were protected by the greatest fleets, shielded by technology that had taken millennia to perfect. They were supposed to be safe. The hollow tide came from the darkness between galaxies. They were machines, cold and calculating, built by a species that had died 1,000,000 years ago. They had no feelings. They had no mercy. They had only one purpose: to consume all organic life and use its resources to build more of themselves. The Valori had known about the hollow tide for centuries. Their fleets had fought them at the galaxy's edge, pushing them back into the void again and again. The war was endless, but it was distant. The Crichet worlds were safe. They had always been safe, until they were not. The attack came without warning. The hollow tide had been planning for decades, hiding their forces in the dark spaces between stars. They did not strike at the Valori fleets. They did not attack the fortress worlds or the industrial centers. They went straight for the Crichet worlds. Sarathyn felt it happen. Across the vast distance, she felt the minds of children screaming. She felt them go silent one by one. She tried to reach her daughter, tried to find Ethera's gentle pink light in the chaos. For one terrible moment, she felt her fear, felt her confusion. Then she felt nothing at all. The Empress did something she had not done in 400 years. She screamed. The response was immediate and terrible. Every Valori ship in the Empire turned toward the Crichet worlds. Sarathyn herself boarded her flagship and burned through space at speeds that should have been impossible. She did not care about the war. She did not care about her empire. She only cared about finding her daughter. When she arrived, she found ruins. The hollow tide had been thorough. The Crichet worlds were broken, their surfaces scarred by weapons fire, their populations scattered or dead. But the machines were gone. They had taken what they wanted and vanished back into the darkness. Sarathyn searched for 3 months. She tore apart asteroid fields looking for survivors. She sent her seekers into every corner of space. She found escape pods, some with survivors, most without. She found wreckage from the transport that had carried her daughter. She found bodies that she did not find Ethera. One of the escape pods had been damaged in the attack. Its navigation system had failed, and it had fallen into an unstable wormhole. The wormhole had collapsed behind it. The pod could have gone anywhere. It could have been thrown to the other side of the galaxy. It could have been crushed by the forces inside the wormhole. There was no way to know. The Valori court declared the princess dead. A memorial was held on the capital world. Billions attended. The Empress did not. Seraphine sat alone in the nursery chamber in the room she had prepared for her daughter's return. The toys were still there. The small bed, sized for a Valori infant, was still made. The walls still glowed with the soft colors that Ethera had liked. She reached out with her mind, searching for that familiar pink light. She searched every day. She searched every night. Across the impossible distances of space, she reached and reached and reached. Sometimes, in the quiet hours, she thought she felt something. A flicker, a spark. So faint it might have been her imagination. So distant it might have been a ghost. But Seraphine was an empress. She had lived for 600 years. She knew the difference between hope and reality. She knew that children did not survive alone in the void. She knew that the universe was cold and dark and did not care about the love of mothers. And yet she kept searching. The court whispered that she had gone mad with grief. They said she was neglecting her duties, that the war against the hollow tide needed her attention. They said she needed to accept her loss and move on. Seraphine ignored them all. She sat in the nursery and she listened to the silence. She remembered the weight of her daughter in her arms. She remembered the way Ethera's light had pulsed when she laughed. She would not stop searching. She could not, because somewhere in the vast darkness of space, she could still feel that tiny flicker, that impossible spark. Her daughter was alive. She knew it in her heart, in her soul, in every crystal of her ancient body. She just had to find her. She did not know that the answer would come from the most unlikely place in the galaxy. She did not know that her daughter's salvation would come not from the great Valori fleets or the powerful seekers or the ancient technology of her empire. It would come from a human. A broken, tired, ordinary human who had nothing to offer except his heart. But that is a story for another time. Marcus Chen had not planned to become a scavenger. 20 years ago, he had been an engineer on a colony ship, building new worlds for humanity. He had been good at his job. He'd been proud of his work. Then the corporate wars came, and the company that owned his contract sold him to a mining operation. When he refused to work in conditions that would have killed him in 5 years, they threw him out with nothing. Now he lived on Junk Station 7, a massive orbital scrapyard that circled a dying brown dwarf star. The station was home to the galaxy's forgotten people. Refugees, criminals, debtors, and failures. They all ended up here eventually, picking through the wreckage of other people's lives to survive. Marcus was 43 years old. His hair was going gray. His back hurt from years of crawling through broken ships. He was 3 months behind on his oxygen payments. And the station manager had started leaving threatening messages on his communicator. He woke up every morning in his tiny room, ate his tasteless protein paste, and went out into the scrapyard to find something worth selling. It was not a good life, but it was his life, and he was too stubborn to give up on it. The day everything changed started like any other. Marcus suited up and took his small shuttle out into the debris field. Junk Station 7 sat at the center of a massive collection of wreckage. Ships that had been destroyed in battles, stations that had been abandoned, cargo containers that had fallen off freighters. All of it drifted here, pulled by the brown dwarf's gravity, waiting to be picked apart. He found the Valori escape pod buried in a tangle of twisted metal. At first, he did not know what it was. The hull was scorched and battered, covered in carbon scoring from some ancient fire. But when he cut through the outer debris and saw the shape of it, his heart started beating faster. Valori technology was worth a fortune. Even a damaged escape pod could pay off his debts and buy him a ticket off this miserable station. He attached his tow cables and dragged the pod back to his workshop. It took him 3 hours to cut through the pod's outer shell. Valori metal was strong, stronger than anything humans could make. But Marcus was patient, and his cutting torch was sharp. When he finally broke through, he expected to find valuable components inside. He did not expect to find a child. She was small, smaller than a human baby. Her body was made of something that looked like crystal, but it was soft and flexible, like flesh. Her skin should have been glowing. Marcus knew that much about the Valori. But this child's light was fading. Her body was cold. Her eyes were closed. She was dying. Marcus stood there for a long moment, staring at her. His mind raced through the possibilities. A Valori child was worth more than any technology. There were collectors who would pay millions for a specimen like this. There were scientists who would pay even more. But she was a child. She was dying. And she was alone. Marcus made his choice without really thinking about it. He scooped her up in his arms, feeling how light she was, how fragile. He ran to his communicator and started searching for anything about Valori biology. The next few days were a blur. Marcus spent his entire emergency fund on xenobiology texts and medical supplies. He learned that Valori children needed UV light to survive. So he built a chamber from salvaged parts and filled it with the strongest UV lamps he could find. He learned that they needed specific sound frequencies to sleep, so he played her music. He tried Valori compositions first, but she did not respond. Then, in desperation, he played her the songs his grandmother used to sing, old Earth songs. Clair de Lune, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Brahms' Lullaby. The child's eyes opened for the first time. They were like looking into a galaxy. Deep purple, filled with tiny points of light, like stars being born. She looked at Marcus, and her light grew stronger. Her crystalline fingers reached out and wrapped around his thumb. She held on, and she did not let go. Marcus named her Lily. Her fingers reminded him of flower petals, delicate and beautiful. It was a human name for an alien child, but it felt right. The other scavengers found out, of course. In a place like Junk Station 7, secrets did not last long. They came to his workshop, one by one, to see what he had found. Some of them offered to buy her. Some of them offered to help him sell her. Some of them just wanted to look at her, like she was a curiosity in a museum. Marcus told them all to leave. When a man named Kretsch tried to take her by force, Marcus broke his nose with a wrench. After that, people stopped coming. The station manager came too, eventually. He said that harboring an alien without documentation was illegal. He said that Marcus owed him 3 months of oxygen payments. He said that turning the child over to the proper authorities would solve both problems. Marcus looked at Lily, sleeping peacefully in her UV chamber, her light pulsing gently in time with Clair de Lune. Then he looked at the station manager. He told him to get out. The next morning, Marcus started packing. He did not have much. Some clothes, some tools, some protein paste. He wrapped Lily in a thermal blanket and put her in a carrier he had made from an old equipment bag. He did not know where he was going. He did not know how he would survive. He only knew that he had to protect this child. This small, fragile, beautiful child who had grabbed his thumb and held on like she would never let go. As his shuttle left, Junk Station 7 behind. Marcus looked down at Lily. She was awake, her galaxy eyes staring up at him. Her light had grown stronger over the past few days. She was healing. For the first time in 20 years, Marcus Chen smiled. He did not know that he was being hunted. He did not know that the most powerful empire in the galaxy was searching for this child. He did not know the danger he was in. But even if he had known, it would not have changed anything. Because Lily was his daughter now, and Marcus would die before he let anyone take her away. Empress Seraphine had not given up hope. While her court mourned and moved on, while her advisors begged her to focus on the war against the Holotide, she kept searching. Every day, she reached out with her mind across the vastness of space. Every day, she searched for her daughter's light, and then, one day, She found it. It was faint. Fainter than a whisper. But it was there. Ethera was alive. Somewhere in the galaxy, her daughter was alive. Sarathan summoned her seekers. They were the elite of the elite, agents who answered only to the Empress herself. They had abilities that made other Valeries seem like children. They could track a single mind across 1,000 light years. They could find anyone, anywhere, no matter how well they hid. She gave them one order: find her daughter. Kill anyone who stood in their way. The Seekers spread across the galaxy like shadows. They searched every station, every colony, every ship. They followed the faintest traces, the smallest clues. And slowly, they began to close in. Marcus did not know he was being hunted. Not at first. He was too busy trying to keep Lily alive, trying to find safe places to hide, trying to earn enough money to buy food and fuel and the UV bulbs that Lily needed. He learned quickly that traveling with an alien child was dangerous. There were people who would pay fortunes to own a Valori. There were scientists who would do terrible things to study her. And there were authorities who would take her away and return her to her people, separating her from the only family she had ever known. So Marcus learned to hide. He taught Lily to dim her light when strangers were near. He learned which stations asked too many questions and which ones looked the other way. He learned how to disappear. They traveled on cargo ships and refugee transports. They stayed in cheap hostels on forgotten moons. They moved every few weeks, never staying in one place long enough to be remembered. It was hard. It was exhausting. But they were together. Lily grew slowly, as Valori children did. In 2 years, she went from an infant to something like a toddler. Her crystalline body hardened slightly, becoming less fragile. Her light grew stronger and more beautiful. Her mind developed in ways that Marcus did not fully understand, but it was her words that amazed him most. The first time she spoke, they were hiding in the cargo hold of a transport ship. Marcus was singing to her one of his grandmother's songs. When she opened her mouth and made a sound, it was not a Valori word. It was not a chime or a frequency or a psychic pulse. It was Papa. Her voice was strange, musical, like crystal bells ringing. But the word was unmistakable. Marcus held her close and cried for the first time in years. After that, she learned more words. Human words. She called the UV chamber her sunshine box. She called the protein paste yucky food. She called the stuffed rabbit that Marcus had bought from a refugee trader, Mr. Flop. She never stopped calling Marcus Papa. He taught her everything he knew. He taught her about Earth, a planet he had never seen but still dreamed about. He taught her about oceans and mountains and forests. He taught her nursery rhymes and card games. He told her stories about brave knights and clever princesses and happy endings. He never told her she was a princess herself. He did not want her to know. Not yet. Maybe not ever, but the Seekers were getting closer. The first sign of danger came on a station called Port Haven. Marcus saw a Valori for the first time in years. A tall figure in dark robes moving through the crowd. He grabbed Lily and ran before the figure could see them. After that, he saw more signs. Ships that followed them for too long. Strangers who asked too many questions about alien children. Messages on information boards offering rewards for information about a missing Valori infant. They ran faster. They hid better. But it was never enough. The Seekers caught up with them on Meridian's Edge, a small station on the border of civilized space. Marcus had thought they were safe there. The station was run by criminals who hated the Valori and would never cooperate with their agents. He was wrong. They came in the night. 3 Seekers, their crystalline bodies glowing with power, their minds reaching out like searchlights. Marcus woke to the sound of his door being broken down. He had seconds to react. He grabbed Lily shoved her into the small compartment under his bed, and told her to hide, to be quiet, to not come out no matter what. Then he turned to face the Seekers with nothing but a plasma torch and his own 2 hands. The lead Seeker looked at him with contempt. Humans were nothing to the Valori. They were insects, brief and meaningless. This one would be crushed like all the others. Marcus raised his plasma torch. He knew he was going to die. He knew he could not stop them. But he was going to try anyway. He thought of Lily, hidden under the bed. He thought of her galaxy eyes and her musical voice, and the way she held onto his thumb like she would never let go. He said a prayer to a God he had not believed in for 20 years. And then he attacked. The fight lasted less than 30 seconds. The Seekers were too fast, too strong, too powerful. Marcus was thrown against the wall, his plasma torch knocked from his hand. The lead Seeker stood over him, ready to deliver the killing blow. And then Lily came out from under the bed. She was scared. She was angry. She saw her father hurt on the ground. And something inside her, something ancient and powerful that she did not understand, woke up. Light exploded from her body. Not gentle light, not the soft glow of a child. This was the light of a star being born. And with the light came something else. A wave of emotion, raw and pure, broadcast with a power that no Valori child should have possessed. Love, terror, rage, protection. The wave hit the Seekers like a physical force. They staggered back, their minds overwhelmed. But the wave did not stop there. It kept going, spreading outward, reaching across the vast distances of space at speeds that should have been impossible. Reaching all the way to the Empress herself, on the capital world. Sarathin felt her daughter's mind for the first time in 2 years. She felt Aethera's fear. She felt her love. Entangled within it, inseparable, she felt something else. A human. A human mind, bright and fierce and full of love. Not a captor. Not a thief. A father. The Empress stood up from her throne. Her light blazed so bright that her attendants had to look away. She said one word, found, and then she went to get her daughter back. The light faded slowly. Lily stood in the middle of the room, her small body trembling, not understanding what she had done. The 3 Seekers were on their knees, their minds still recovering from the psychic blast that had hit them. They were not hurt, not really. Valori minds were too strong for that. But they were shocked. Nothing like this had ever happened before. Marcus pushed himself up from the floor. His ribs were broken. His arm was bleeding. But he was alive. He crawled toward Lily, pulled her into his arms, and held her tight. The lead Seeker looked at them. Something had changed in her eyes. The contempt was gone. In its place was something else. Confusion. Maybe even wonder. She spoke, her voice like music. The Empress comes. Do not run. You cannot escape. Then the 3 Seekers stood up and walked out of the room. They did not try to take Lily. They did not try to hurt Marcus. They simply left. Marcus did not understand. But he did not waste time trying to figure it out. He bandaged his wounds as best he could, packed their few belongings, and prepared to run again. But Lily stopped him. She put her small crystalline hand on his cheek. Her galaxy eyes looked into his. And for the first time, he heard her voice in his mind, not his ears. She cannot hurt you, Papa. She felt what I feel. She knows now. Marcus did not know what that meant. But he trusted Lily. He trusted her more than he trusted anything else in the universe. So he stopped packing. He sat down on the broken bed. And he waited. 3 days passed. Marcus fixed what he could of their damaged room. He made sure Lily had enough UV light. He sang her to sleep every night, the same songs he had been singing since he found her. She was different now. Quieter. More thoughtful. The blast of power had changed something in her. She started telling him things she should not have known. She told him that her mother was coming. She told him that her mother was scared. She told him that her mother had been searching for her every single day since she disappeared. She told him that her name was not really Lily, it was Ethera. She was a princess. Her mother was the Empress of 12,000 worlds. Marcus listened to all of it. When she was done, he held her close and kissed the top of her crystalline head. "You are still Lily to me," he said. "You will always be my Lily." She hugged him back. "And you will always be my Papa Dot." On the third day, the Valori fleet arrived. It was the largest gathering of ships that Meridian's Edge had ever seen. Dreadnoughts the size of small moons. Battle cruisers bristling with weapons. Escort ships that moved like dancers around the larger vessels. The station sensors went crazy trying to count them all. The station's leaders tried to flee. They tried to surrender. They tried to bargain. The Valori ignored them completely. They were not here for the station. They were here for one person, a shuttle detached from the flagship. It flew slowly toward the station, giving everyone time to see it coming. On its hull was the symbol of the Imperial House, the personal ship of Empress Seraphine IX. She was coming herself. The station's corridors cleared as she walked through them. People pressed themselves against walls, fell to their knees, or simply ran away. She was 12 feet tall, her crystalline body blazing with power. Every step she took left scorch marks on the metal floor. Every breath she released was like a furnace blast. She could have destroyed the entire station without breaking a sweat. Everyone knew it. Everyone was terrified. But Marcus Chun stood in the doorway of his room and watched her come. He was not terrified. He was tired and hurt and scared, but not for himself. He was scared for Lily. He was scared of losing her. He was scared of losing his daughter. Seraphine stopped in front of him. She looked down at this small, fragile human. He was nothing. He was less than nothing. He was a speck of dust that would be dead in a few decades. His species had only been traveling among the stars for a few centuries. They were children themselves, barely more than animals. And yet he had saved her daughter. He had kept her alive when she should have died. He had loved her when he had no reason to. He had been ready to die for her, knowing he could not win, knowing it was hopeless. She had seen his mind through Ethera's eyes. She had felt his love through her daughter's heart. It was not the love of a captor or a thief or an opportunist. It was the love of a parent, pure and simple and absolute. She did not understand it. Humans live such short lives. Why would they waste so much of that precious time caring for a child that was not even their own species? Why would they sacrifice everything for something they could never truly keep? She wanted to hate him. It would be easier if she could hate him. But she could not, because Ethera loved him. And that meant something. The door to the inner room opened. Lily walked out slowly, her light gentle, her steps careful. She looked at her mother for a long moment. Memories stirred in her mind. Memories of warmth and love and a voice that sang to her before she was born. "Mama," she said. Sarathon fell to her knees. The Empress of 12,000 worlds, the most powerful being in the galaxy, fell to her knees in front of a child and a human scavenger. Her light flickered and danced. If she could have cried, she would have "My child," she said. "My beautiful child." Lily walked toward her mother, but she did not let go of Marcus's hand. She pulled him with her, step by step, until they stood together in front of the Empress. "This is my papa," Lily said. "He saved me. He loves me. You cannot hurt him." Seraphine looked at the human. He was shaking. He was terrified. But he stood his ground. He did not run. He did not beg. He just stood there, holding her daughter's hand, ready to face whatever came next. She reached out with her mind, very gently, and touched his thoughts. She saw his memories. She saw him finding Lily, dying in the escape pod. She saw him spending everything he had to save her. She saw him running, hiding, fighting. She saw him singing her to sleep every night, with songs that were older than his species' time among the stars. She saw his love, fierce and desperate and unconditional. The love of a father for his child. And she understood. Humans did not love despite their short lives. They loved because of them. They knew that everything they cared about would eventually be lost. They knew that death was always coming. And they loved anyway. They loved with everything they had, holding nothing back, because they knew they did not have time to waste that. It was beautiful. It was tragic. It was the most human thing in the universe. Sarthan rose to her feet. She looked at Marcus Chun with new eyes. Not as an insect. Not as a thief. As a father. You kept her alive, she said. She is my daughter, Marcus answered. He said it simply, without hesitation. He said it like it was the most obvious truth in the universe. And in that moment, something changed. Something that would echo through the ages, that would reshape the relationship between humans and Valori forever. The Empress nodded. The silence in the room stretched on forever. Marcus could hear his own heart beating. He could feel Lily's small hand in his, her crystalline fingers warm against his skin. He could see the Empress towering above him, her light filling the entire space with colors he could not name. He waited for the end. He waited for her to take Lily away. He waited for her to kill him, or imprison him, or simply erase him from existence. He had stolen 2 years with the heir to the greatest empire in the galaxy. Surely there would be a price for that. Sarthan spoke. Her voice was soft now, not the thundering power of before. She sounded tired. She sounded sad that she must return with me, the Empress said. She is heir to an empire. Her people need her. Her destiny needs her. I cannot leave her here. Marcus closed his eyes. He had known this moment would come. He had dreamed about it, feared it, prepared for it. But now that it was here, he was not ready. He would never be ready. I know, he said. Lily looked up at him. Her galaxy eyes were filled with confusion and fear. Papa, what is happening? Where are you going? Marcus knelt down in front of her. He took both of her hands in his. He looked into those impossible eyes, those eyes that held entire universes inside them. You have to go with your mother, sweetheart, he said. She loves you. She has been looking for you for a very long time. She needs you, but I need you, Lily said. Her voice was breaking. Her light was flickering. You are my papa. You found me. You saved me. You cannot leave me. Marcus felt tears running down his face. He did not try to stop them. I will never leave you, Lily. Not really. I will always be with you, in here. He touched her chest, where her heart would be if she were human. And you will always be with me, no matter how far apart we are, no matter how much time passes. You are my daughter, forever. Lily threw her arms around his neck. She held him tight, her small body shaking with sobs that sounded like crystal bells breaking. Marcus held her back. He memorized the feeling of her in his arms. He memorized her smell, her warmth, the sound of her voice. He knew he would never hold her again. But then, Sarthan spoke once more. She speaks of you constantly. Marcus looked up. The Empress was watching them, her expression unreadable. But something had changed in her eyes. Something had softened. Since the moment she reached out to me, Sarthan continued, I have felt your presence in her mind. You are everywhere. In her memories, in her thoughts, in her heart. She sings your songs when she is scared. She calls for you when she is hurt. Her mind is shaped by you, human. It is shaped by your love, Marcus did not know what to say. He just held Lily tighter. Sarathin knelt down. The Empress of 12,000 worlds knelt on the dirty floor of a scavenger's room on a criminal space station. She reached out and touched Lily's face with fingers that could have crushed mountains. "I cannot take that from her," Sarathin said. "I will not." She paused. She looked at Marcus with those ancient, powerful eyes. "My daughter needs you. Therefore, you will come with us." Marcus stared at her. He could not believe what he was hearing. "You will be given a place in my court," Sarathin continued. "Not as a servant. Not as a curiosity. As family. You will help raise my daughter. You will teach her your songs and your stories and your way of loving. You will be her father, alongside me as her mother. She needs both of us. I see that now." Lily looked up, her tears still falling. "Really? Papa can come with us?" "Really," Sarathin said. And there was warmth in her voice now. Real warmth. "If he will have us," Marcus laughed. It was a broken, wet sound, full of relief and joy, and 1,000 other emotions he could not name. He looked at the Empress, this being of infinite power who had just humbled herself before him. "I spent my emergency fund on UV bulbs," he said. "I have nothing to offer her. Nothing except love. That is everything," Sarathin answered. "That is more than everything." Marcus Chun became the first human ever granted standing in the Valori court. The scholars and philosophers and politicians of the empire did not understand it. They debated it for generations. Why would the Empress honor a human? Why would she give him such status? He was mortal. He would be dead in a few decades. What could he possibly offer? But Lily understood. And when she grew older, when she took her place as heir to the empire, she explained it to everyone who asked. The Valori lived for thousands of years. They had time to be careful. They had time to guard their hearts, to measure their love, to hold back pieces of themselves just in case. They loved, but they loved cautiously. Humans did not have that luxury. Marcus knew that he was going to die. He knew that everyone he loved was going to die. He knew that nothing lasted forever. And he loved anyway. He loved completely, desperately, with his whole heart. He held nothing back because he knew that holding back was just another way of wasting the precious time he had. When Lily was lost and dying in the darkness of space, it was not a Valori who found her. It was not one of her own people, with their ancient wisdom and their careful hearts. It was a human. A broken, tired, ordinary human who had nothing to give except everything. "I was cold," Lily would say, telling the story to her children and her grandchildren and the countless generations that came after. "I was dying. I was alone in the dark. And a human found me. He had nothing, and he gave me everything." That is what humans do. Marcus lived for another 40 years. He saw Lily grow into a young woman, then into a leader, then into an empress herself. He taught her everything he knew. He sang her to sleep every night until she was too old for lullabies. He loved her with every breath in his body until there were no breaths left. When he died, the Valori Empire mourned. Billions of beings spread across 12,000 star systems stopped what they were doing to honor a single human. Ships dimmed their lights. Planets went silent. For one moment, the entire galaxy remembered Marcus Chun. Lily did not cry at his funeral. She had learned from him that death was not the end. It was just another part of the story. She stood before the gathered mourners, her light blazing bright, and she told them about her father. "He taught me that love is not measured by time," she said. "It is measured by depth." He only had a few decades. But in those decades, he loved more than most beings love in millennia. He loved like he was running out of time. Because he was. And that made it mean more. The Valori began to see humans differently after that. not as insects or animals or primitive beings to be managed. They saw them as something else, something they had forgotten how to be. Beings who loved like every moment mattered, because it did. And somewhere, in whatever place comes after death, Marcus Chun smiled. His daughter was safe. His daughter was loved. His daughter would carry his songs and his stories and his love forward into eternity. That was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything.